So while it's not optimized as well as it could be, that'll be a nice yield. Oh my goodness, it just happened. Continuing off on the farmer was replaced. So I played for a little bit Saturday morning yesterday, and I tried to just optimize my code a little bit. So let's ignore the stuff on the right for now, and let's expand this function that I've called version 1. This is the old program from the last video or the first video, just the bulk of it was all here. So what I tried to do was kind of break it down into more bite-sized pieces. It's still not optimized, but I'm trying, I guess. This is not code, this is just my idea notepad for trees, which I will discuss shortly here. But for right now, this is kind of the main function. Scratch that. This is the main function, and it calls version 2, which is version 2, instead of using version 1 here. So we check water. Actually, real quick, what I've unlocked before when I wasn't recording, I unlocked watering, I unlocked trees, I think I unlocked another speed, and I'm a little low on wood right now, so I have to plant trees actually, because trees are better than bushes. And you can't unlock expand unless you get pumpkins. And pumpkins are a little unique, I think. I think they grow outside of a 1x1 square, judging from the artwork on the Steam page for this game. It looks like pumpkins can get pretty big. Figured I'd leave that till I was recording. And I think I unlocked variables too, actually. So taking a quick look at these variables, there's really nothing out of the ordinary here. There's no interesting examples. I use it up here. Instead of having to type get position X and Y, here and then here and here, it just kind of tidies it up. So X and Y, and then we use X and Y in here. And what I've done to control the movement, a little bit of a cleanup from version 1, is basically when this program's running indefinitely, the main loop calls version 2. So check for water, get its position. If it's in the 0 column, do grass. If it's in the columns 1 or 2, do bushes. And if we're in column 3, do carrots, and then get the world size. So getting world size function returns 4 in this case because it's a square. And I think every time you expand your plot, it's always a square. So the get world size will always just be a value of one of these directions. That's the same. Got up a little bit long-winded there. But yeah, 4 minus 1 is 3, so 0, 1, 2, 3. If we're at that position, then move east and then move north again. So that's how he kind of wraps his way around. And if we run this real quickly, we will see, since I've let my soil actually dry out, the water level is lower than 0.05. It's going to use item water tanks, and then it's going to print that comment. And notice how it looks like it's going sideways? That's actually just it writing the numbers. Now that all the soil's been watered, it's just going to fly through at a much faster speed. I could speed the whole thing up by getting rid of this comment, but it's kind of nice. What would be nicer is if I could use a comment to actually temporarily disable that print statement. But it's either not in the game, or they just haven't taught it yet, or I've just missed it. So that's cool. And I added a little reset function here. This is kind of fun because it kind of proves that, okay, if we're reset and we run this, see how it replanted everything? So when it goes to do crop grass, it says just basic. There's not a lot of checks you have to do, but when you get to bushes, I had to check that it wasn't tilled soil, that there wasn't carrots there, because I had a mistake before. So if there is soil and you're trying to do bushes, then till it again to untill it, basically. Then plant the bush. And if you can harvest it, great, harvest it, but plant the bush again. And for the crops, carrots, basically if you were not over tilled soil, then trade for seeds. And I think if there's no seeds, I think it does a loop without planting. Then next time, if it's tilled, it just goes straight to if you can harvest it. And I believe once my seeds run down to 0, I'm going to throw this trade command back down here. But One of my early revisions had a mistake that I didn't notice, so I kept buying seeds. I must have had like 200 seeds that were just kind of excessive. And you lose a lot of carrots and whatever else. Carrots and wood is something I'm actually short on right now. To trade for tanks, you get five. 5 carrots for a water tank. So basically, it's a value from 0 to 1, or you could think of it as, 0 to 100% percentage. So if we were below 5%, fill it up. The reason I did that is they say it's more efficient to keep lower water level than a higher water level. And these empty tanks will fill up every, how does this go? Every 100 tanks you have will fill up every 2 seconds. So I had a trade for empty tank routine in here that ran every time. And I watched it till it got to 100 and then I stopped it. No real reason. I probably could have done it more. I can afford to do it more. I just figured whatever. Yeah, that is the update of a little bit of a cleaner program. I probably should get rid of this print statement because it makes everything quite slow. See, this command I would have expected a comment. Now moving on to trees, my idea notepad. So if we go back and we go to trees, what do they say here? So far I've been trying to avoid the hints, just trying to stumble across it on my own. Trees are a better way of getting wood than bushes. They yield 5 wood each. I think bushes are normally just 1, but they have unique space. Basically, if you've got trees next to each other, they slow down, and if you plant a tree on every tile, it takes 16 times longer. So if I plant a tree here and a tree here, they'll actually grow slower. I don't know about diagonal, and if you plant a tree here, it's the same as planting one. So one here and one here will count as being side by side because the game wraps. So what I was thinking about doing was just planting the bush routine here, doing grass, then having the bush routine. So real quickly, if we did, and now that I've refactored the code, I find it a little easier to work with. I can easily see, okay, crop grass is going to run if I change this, and if I change this, it's crop bush. So just looking at this example, if we hit play, will it clean everything up? That's pretty cool, right? Now, what a person could do is we could say, you know what? Where do I want to do this? Trees. What did I say here? I already kind of forget what my idea was yesterday. I don't know if I have to buy trees or if I can just plant them. You know what? Maybe I should make the tree have its completely own routine. Maybe that would be neater in a sense. So if we do crop tree, so I could basically say, I guess the same thing. If not is underscore over entities dot tree. Okay, so tree's unlocked now. If it happens to be over a carrot plot, I don't know if this is necessary, but I had one issue when I was testing early on, so I'll just keep doing it. This is technically until, which would be nice again to have comments to say, hey, this is your until. If you can harvest it, great. Then harvest it. Then plant entities dot tree. Cool. So here what I might do, let's get a little fancy. If y, where's that mod key? If y basically divided by 2. The remainder of it is equal to 0. That means it's an even number. Because this position, 0 divided by 2 would be 0, which is even. 2 divided by 2, wait, yeah, would be 0, with the remainder of 0. I got confused there for a second. A crop tree. And if it's not 0, then it's probably going to be 1, because that's just how mod 2 works. I believe this should work. It's not happy. Oh, grounds. I missed the keyword there. The first time I did that. We just reset it. Okay, so my understanding with how these trees work is that this function is working perfect. One thing I'll mention is you see that this check, it's never highlighting over this use items. We're not actually using the water. The value must be above 0.05 or 5% is maybe a better way of thinking of that. If we were to change this value to a value of, let's say, you know what, if we did 0.5, that would be 2.5 times as fast. It would cost more water. You know what? Let's do 5.5. That's basically 55%. Let's see how quickly we go through the water. So stuff's growing quickly. We're out of seeds. What happens? Okay, so it doesn't error. Interesting. Well, now for this carrot thing. The reason I have to have trade in here is if I reset the map and it retails stuff, it will not ever be able to harvest. It'll never run this routine. We should also add trade here. So every time we harvest, then definitely trade to buy more seeds and then plant. I think originally I had this trade for carrot seeds here. So every time it went through here, it was buying seeds, which is just unnecessary. But really, I could buy a ton of water buckets at this point, because you get an empty bucket per 5 carrots. Surprisingly, though, this number's not going down any farther. Oh yeah, we can't do that. We can do speed. I just don't know if it's necessary right now. So I'd like to read on pumpkins here, because this is like a little confusing. Or it could be confusing. Pumpkins grow on tilled soil, just like carrots. They require pumpkin seeds to be planted, which cost 1 carrot each. Every pumpkin in a square has fully grown. They grow together in a giant pumpkin. Interesting. If every pumpkin in a square has fully grown, they grow into a giant one. So if they're side by side, I guess is what it's saying. The yield of a giant pumpkin is the pumpkin square of the number of pumpkins in it. Interesting. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You get 16 instead of 4. Wow. That's insane, actually. It's a good idea to make the pumpkins as big as possible before harvesting them, even if that pumpkin sometimes die before growing up. Wait, what? It's a good idea to make the pumpkins as big as possible before harvesting them. The problem is that pumpkins sometimes die before growing up. That means that even if you plant a pumpkin on every tile in a square, One of the pumpkins may die, preventing the mega pumpkin from growing. The pumpkin that dies simply disappears, so you can plant a new one there. Interesting. So, you know what? Because of the resolution of my monitor, I can actually still see this not bad. If x is equal to 0 and y is equal to, we could say less than 2, 0 or 1. Could say less than or equal to 1 might be easier for me to remember. So if we're in, wait a second, we could say that the same thing about x. If x is less than or equal to 1. So if our x or our y is 0 or 1, 0 or 1, then run this routine. And since we've put this routine at the first position, it should do that first before it goes on to the next thing. We could run crop pumpkin, right? You know what? Just as a test here, if we do crop carrots, then at least I'll know. If x is less than or equal to 1, and y is less than or equal to 1, so why doesn't it enter that routine? I wish there was a hotkey on the keyboard that I could click. I don't know if it exists, but a breaking point would be cool. I think breaking points mean I could have it stop at a spot. I could run the program and it would stop at that spot instead of me having to mash this button. Oh, you know what's happening? I realize what's happening. Okay, that took me far too long to realize. As I was typing this, I knew I had to make a change, but I already forgot. This is an if, and then this one also runs. So for this position, wait, that's not true. Let's think about this here. If we change this to else if, does that fix it? I thought it was for a second, but I don't think it does. You know what? It does. So if you didn't catch that, because I did an if here, it kind of runs if this and if not, then it goes to this other if statement and does this one. But we want them collectively together. Like if this is good, fine, and then skip the rest. You don't do the rest of the checks. But if you did want to do the rest of these checks, you would do if, and then if, and then if, so they're their own separate thing. Because these are grouped together with the else if, it picks one or the other. So that's cool. Now I should be able to take crop pumpkin. And so you have to trade for the seeds, I guess. So that's kind of just like carrots, right? I might as well just copy this. So if you're not over soil, then till, and then you're going to want to trade for items dot pumpkin down autocomplete pumpkin seed. If you can harvest it, great. But do we want to do a check that all the guys next to it? I don't know how this will work. Will it harvest just the one, or will it wait for the mega pumpkin? And I cannot type. Okay, let's try this. I guess we have to fix this. You know what? Pumpkins, pumpkins. Interesting. So because of my weird... How do we know if that's a pumpkin seed or what type of seed that is? I see this is not going to work either where I have my trade. I don't know where to put this trade. Because this will never run to buy pumpkin seeds because the soil's tilled. And then it'll only do it after harvesting. Hmm. But if I place it here, it'll run every time. I would like to do a check, right? Like if your pumpkin seeds in your inventory are lower than a number, then to buy more. But I don't think that check exists or it doesn't exist right now. Wait, here's an idea. I'm sure there's a reason why I didn't do this before, but if we just get rid of that, we take these out of that if statement. We just take it every time it runs. I'll probably get too many seeds, but we'll see what happens. Okay, pumpkin seeds clearly look different. Wow. That's like the perfect size to actually just grow. I say that, and I'm wrong. So if we stop this, then can we not make the exact same correction to this? I'm surprised I didn't notice that before. Or maybe there's a mistake I just haven't noticed yet. But if we run this guy indefinitely, I almost wonder if it's not trading because it doesn't need to. Is it smart enough to know? Wow, it's already been 25 minutes. This is crazy. Lists 1K pumpkins, expand 1K, fertilizer 6K. Wow, okay. So I will say before ending the video here, potentially what I want to do is turn this whole thing into a pumpkin. And what's kind of cool now that I've got these functions broken out, instead of having just to delete them, I can leave them off to the side and then I could change this structure. Or I could make a new program called version 3 that's specifically dedicated just for harvesting a ton of pumpkins right away. I mean, probably pumpkins and maybe carrots because you need 1 carrot to buy a pumpkin seed. But then again, we've got 1.5. That's kind of an interesting idea. You know what? I've got a few minutes here. Let's just try this. Keep getting ready to end, but I'm enjoying myself here. So version 3. It would probably make it more sense to call it like version pumpkin, but whatever. What's kind of cool is I think I'm just going to copy this whole body, but then we don't really have to do any of this advanced movement here. Basically, we're just going to say just run pumpkins, I think. We'll leave this movement the same for navigating the grid, but really this should just plant pumpkins, I would think. If we change this to version 3, it's not getting to be a massive pumpkin, but it's still doubling in size. That'd be cool to do a weight. You know what would be cool, actually? They're going to probably start dying on me here. What if we did an if x equals 0 and a y equals 0, then do a flip. I don't know if that's long enough, though. What if we printed... We print um, text like this? I don't know. It didn't like it when I did. Like typically to write a piece of text, you have to combine it in quotes, right, for string. But it didn't like that last time. Okay, it doesn't like it this time either. Probably do a loop here, but instead of trying to figure out loops right now, let's just do 2 flips. as long as we can get everything to plant in one spot, will it ever get bigger? I guess some are dying is the problem. Hmm. What if we did the position like that? That make any difference at all? Yeah, they're dying too soon. But really, at the grand scheme of things, we're still at 1.2k carrots. We barely went down. We went down like a couple hundred carrots. The pumpkins is already at 1.2k, which is kind of insane. So that's kind of the advantage to breaking it up like that, I suppose.